Hello everyone, welcome back again to my channel. If you are new to my channel, I want to say welcome, and also I want to ask that you please hit the like and subscribe button at the end of this video if you like my recipe. And also when you hit the like and subscribe button, it will notify you for next time when I upload a new videos. It will notify you, so please help to support my channel. And so today the recipe for today is Bitterball and Kitiley. So the Bitterball and Kitiley, I got them, I guess everything in the pot here except the bell pepper. I got them last year from farmers market. So I usually buy all my stuff during farmers market and freeze them up, so that way when I'm ready to cook, they're already there, waiting for me. So but that's what I usually do to prep, my African food. Like during the summertime, I just get all my stuff from farmers market. But anyway, as you can see, I just wanted to make a little comment about the spices that I cook whenever I cook my food. So I'm a Liberian. I know some maybe nationalities, like people from other countries, maybe some of my Liberian people who don't eat too much spice, like when they watch my video, like, I have some negative comments that sometimes I delete from my videos because people will be like, oh, that's too much spices, you're going to kill people with that spice, you're going to make people sick, or sometimes even the oil that I use. Some soup, when you're cooking them, for example, cassava leaf, you need a lot of oil in it. I'm not saying a whole lot of oil, but you need oil because cassava leaf, when you keep cassava leaf in the fridge, it sit there for like a day or two. When you go back to eat it, it gets, that, like, some of the oil, like, it just, dry up. Like, the cassava leaf suck up the oil, if that makes sense. So for spices in my home, my household, it's just my husband and I, we eat a lot of spice. We eat a lot of spices. So that's why when you see me cooking a lot of spices in my food, that's why. But if we had guests over or we having an event or program, I, minimize the spice. I don't pour a whole lot of spice because I know some people don't eat spices. But I would just appreciate it if you're leaving a comment. Please be nice and respectful about it. Everybody doesn't eat the same amount of spice, Everybody doesn't eat the same amount of spices. So please be respectful of my videos. It's just to teach some people how to make certain things. But you don't have to do exactly how I do, what I do in my video. You don't have to, if I'm putting too much pepper in my food, you don't have to do the same thing. You can put a little bit of pepper, what you can handle, or even the oil. So I just want to make a comment about that. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, the cubes and seasoning that I use to cook when I'm making my videos. Sometimes I make a whole lot of soup. So the pot you see in this video is a big pot. Like in person, it looks small in the video, but in person it's big, and inside it is deep, it's wide. So I like to cook a lot of soup. So when I'm using 4 or 5 cubes to put in my soup, maybe that's what I want, because I want my food to taste well. Like, I like to season my food well, especially when you're cooking a lot of soup. You want it to be seasoned well. You don't just want to put small seasoning in it, and then at the end of the day, the soup doesn't have any kind of flavor or taste to it. So I have people leaving negative comments about me using a lot of cubes, a lot of seasoning. I understand we're all different. Some people don't like to season their food, to a certain point, but I like to do that. Again, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing in my videos. Just, do what you think is best for you. Season your food to your taste, if that makes sense. But anyway, I'm just putting all the seasoning in my soup now. And then now I'm going to add some water to it and just get it to start boiling. So the Bitterball is pot boiled. I cooked it a little bit when I bought it last year. But the Kitiley is raw. I just, put the Kitiley in a Ziploc bag and then pot boil it. So I'm going to have to cook everything together for maybe close to an hour, maybe like up to maybe 40 minutes until everything softened up. And then when it's softened up, I will go ahead to show you guys the next step of the process. So make sure you stir it up like you see me doing. Just stir it up and, mix all the seasoning that you added to it. And then from there, you cover it up and just let it to cook, for, like I said, 40 minutes or however long it's going to take for the Bitterball and Kitiley to soften up. So moving on, these are the meat that I'll be using for our Kitiley and Bitterball Torgborgee today. So I'm using some crab, snail, raw fish, burnt cow skin and raw cow skin. And then I'm using some chicken feet, dry fish, and also I'm using some turkey necks. So for the meat, you don't have to use the same meat that I'm using. You don't have to use all the meat that I'm putting in my soup. You can use whatever meat that you feel okay using in your soup. But anyway, so I'm gonna show you guys the next step where I will be seasoning all of this up. So with the meat, before you parboil your meat, make sure you season your meat. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna show you guys next. All right, so it's time to season our meat up, and then we will get it to start parboiling. So the same seasoning that I used to season the Kitiley and the Bitterball are the same seasoning that I'll be using to season the meat. So I'm using 1 tablespoon of the adobo seasoning, and then the granulated chicken flavor soup base mix seasoning. Also, I'm using 2 tablespoons of that, and then I'm using 1 tablespoon of salt for the meat, and then I'll be using 1 cube Maggie cube. I think it's the shrimp flavor, I believe. And then I'll be using paprika as well as part of the seasoning. I'm using 1 tablespoon of that to season my meat, as you can see. Anyway, so after you season your meat, the next thing you'll do is to just add some water to it, and then you get your meat to start parboiling. So with the meat, when you're parboiling it, I usually parboil my meat for like half an hour, especially when I have raw fish in there. The crab. So the crab and the raw fish, I feel like those get softened up real fast. So I usually like cook, parboil it for like half hour, and then I go ahead to take the raw fish out and the crab and put them on the side, and then I let the rest of the meat to just continue parboiling until they get to the texture that I want them to get to. But anyway, I'm just adding some water on here now, and then I will get our meat to start parboiling. So the meat has been cooking for about half an hour, and I'm just back to check it. So as I mentioned previously, this is the best time to take the raw fish out and the crab. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the raw fish and the crab out, and then I will let the rest of the meat to continue parboiling for maybe another 10 to 15 minutes until the rest of the meat get the perfect texture that I'm looking for. But yeah, so stay tuned for the next step. So while the rest of the meat are still parboiling, I'm here to check the Kitiley and Bitterball. So as you can see, it looks like it's already like softening up. The Kitiley and Bitterball, they're already softening up, and they're ready for us to move on to the next step, which is to blend everything up. So usually I would like just because sometimes the Kitiley is hard to done sometimes, but I just like to, sometimes check and just maybe take 1 Kitiley and just squeeze it to see if it breaks open or pops open, then it's ready to, be blended. So I'm about to blend it next. So what I'm going to do now is to use my screener and screen all the water out from my Kitiley and Bitterball. So after screening all the water out, I'm going to go ahead to blend everything up, which you're going to see in a bit. Right, so it's time to blend it. So the blending, you can either use, if you don't have a blender, you can use a bowl, like a big bowl, and a bottle, some type of thing that you, I don't know how to call it, but they have this stuff they sell in the store, African store, that you can use to like blend, like mash stuff in the pan. So you can either use that, but if you have a blender, which is the easiest way to go, to save your muscles some work, you can just use your blender and just blend it as you can see me doing here. Just make sure you blend it smoothly, and then yeah, so I'm just gonna blend it, and then we will move on to the next step. So here's the Kitiley and Bitterball that I blended. So this is the texture that you want it to look like. I mean, if you're blending it in the bowl, like using your muscles and maybe like a bottle to like blend it up, it will look smooth, but maybe not exactly like how it looked like when you blend it in a blender. But anyway, after I add everything in the pot, so I will go ahead to probably season it up a little bit more to get it to the taste that I wanted to be. So the next thing I'm gonna do now is to add some more seasoning to the soup. So I'm adding the chicken bouillon seasoning. I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of it. And then I'll also be adding the adobo seasoning, about 1 tablespoon, which you're going to see in a second. And then I'll add some salt to it, just a little bit of salt. And then I'll also be adding 2 more Maggi cubes to it. So with the seasoning, you don't want to overdo it. Just take your time and just put little by little as you keep going, because you don't want to overdo it when you just put everything at once. So as you notice in all my videos, when I'm cooking, I just season little by little as I'm going. I don't just add a seasoning one time and just be done. I just little by little until you get it to the taste that you want it to get to. So after you add all the seasoning up, you just want to stir it up like you see me doing. Just mix everything up. And then, so the broth from the Bitterball and Kitiley that you parboil, that broth already have seasoning in it. So you don't have to waste that broth. Just, use it. That's exactly what you see me doing here. I'm adding that broth back into the pot here. And then I'm going to just let the soup, get back to cooking. So I'm gonna cook it for some time, maybe for like 15 to 20 minutes, because it's not a lot of broth in it, just a little bit. So we just want to get the cubes and the seasoning that we put in it to just cook a little bit more. And then I will show you guys the next step, so just stay tuned. I'm gonna just cover it up and let it cook for the next 15 to 20 minutes, and then I will show you guys the next step. All right, so I'm back to check the soup. It's been cooking for about 20 minutes, and so I'm just checking it. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is to add our meat to it, our parboiled meat to it, because this is perfect. We don't want it to get too dry now, so this is just perfect. So next, I'm just gonna add the meat to it. So here I am adding in all the parboiled meat to the soup. So at this point, we're almost close to being done. So after adding all the meat, I'm just gonna let it all cook together for another maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll be adding our oil in for the next step. I almost forgot to mention, but when you get to this part of cooking the soup, make sure that you don't cook the soup on high heat anymore, because as you can see, there's not much water left in it for it to dry up. So make sure you cook it on medium heat to prevent your soup from getting burned. But anyway, yeah, just remember that. So you don't want to eat burnt soup anyway. I mean, the whole soup won't get burned, but most of it, I mean, some of it will get burned. But to prevent that, just, cook it on low heat or on medium heat. So the soup has been cooking for about 15 minutes, and I'm back to check it. And now is the perfect time to add in our oil. So the oil that I'm using is Torgborgee oil. Obviously, we're making Bitterball Torgborgee, so you gotta use Torgborgee oil for it. So the Torgborgee oil, you can find the oil at your local market, African market, if you have one nearby. But anyway, our soup is almost done. Just bear with me. We're almost there. But it's looking pretty good, looking delicious. I'm already hungry, and I can't wait to eat. I've been craving this. I can't wait to eat. I'm starving. But like you can see, again, you see the oil in here. It's just perfect. But you don't have to add too much oil in your soup for the people that don't like too much oil. The meat in it, everything just looking juicy, looking so juicy. Just can't wait to eat. But yeah, bear with me, we're almost there. So after adding in the oil, now I'm just gonna, pretty much the soup is done, but I'm just gonna just cook it for just about a few more minutes. Maybe 10 more minutes, just so the oil doesn't have that raw smell or taste to it. So I'm just gonna cook it for a few more minutes just to cook the oil, and then we'll move on to the last step. So I'm back to check the soup. So I let it to cook for another 10 more minutes. I just wanted the oil to just cook a little bit more with the soup. But anyway, so at this point the soup is already done. So what you're gonna do, you just either want to lower your stove, or you can turn your stove off and let the soup to cool off, because the last step is to add in the soda. So that's why you want to lower the stove or turn it up, because if you don't do that, when you add the soda in, the soup will flow over, and you don't want that. So I'm now going to be adding in the soda. I'm going to be using two types of soda. I'm using the country soda, and I'm using the white soda that's in the box. I'm going to show it to you in a second. But if you don't have both, don't worry. You don't have to use both. You can use either one. But for me, I just prefer to use both soda when I'm cooking any tteokbokki soup. So I always make sure that I have both soda in my house. But anyway, so this is the soup. This is the finished product. As you can see, it looks yummy. It looks delicious. I'm starving. I can't wait to eat. So what I like to do usually when I add in the soda, I like to put the stove back on low heat, not medium, but just low heat, and just cook the soup for maybe about 5 minutes, just for the soda to cook the soda a little bit more. But yeah, so what I was saying about you lowering the stove, before you put the soda in. So you see how, like, when you add the soda in, the foam, how it comes up, but if the stove is on, the soup spills over. So that's why you want to make sure you lower your stove. That's why I mentioned that. So here's the finished look of the soup. Thank you for sticking with me all the way till the end. So as I mentioned previously at the beginning of the video, if you are new to my channel, please feel free to hit the like and subscribe button to support my channel. And also hitting the subscribe button will just notify you whenever I upload a new video. And also feel free to leave a positive comment, okay? So if you want to see me make any other recipe, just leave a comment below and I'll meet your request. But other than that, this is my Kitiley tteokbokki, how it turned out. It looks very, very delicious and it tastes good. So as I mentioned, I'm starving, so I can't wait to eat. I'm just making me some food now to just eat and call it a day. But anyway, thanks for watching again.